So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 31. My name is Mike Fisher. My co-host still over there.
I've made it past the audition. I am still here. I'm sticking to Mike like glue. Hello.
Perfect.
I'm Maricela Arechiga, aka the co-host of You Want to Be a Contractor.
Our guest today, Omar Ramirez, general manager over at Align Digesters. How you doing, Omar?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Hanging in here, getting ready for this heat. It's supposed to be the hottest day.
I was going to say, yeah, you're
115 degrees here.
Yeah, you're up a little further north. It's going to be real hot up there.
You're repping what? Is it Central California you're representing?
Central California.
Yeah. Lots of land up there.
Out there. Yeah.
A lot of land.
Yeah. Are you born and raised up there? Where are you from?
Born and raised in a small town, Dos Palos, which is about 20 minutes from here.
Okay.
Yeah, lived here all my life. Took off to college, Cal Poly, and decided I didn't want to pursue the major that I went under. I didn't want to move to a big city as a structural engineer, architectural engineer, and decided to go back to my roots, and haven't regretted it since.
Amazing. What's the biggest industry out in Madera?
Agriculture.
Agriculture, baby.
Yep.
So I was born and raised in Central California as well. Si se puede, the roots of Cesar Chavez live well in me. Agriculture, it's amazing how you'll just be driving down miles and miles of agriculture, cornfields, cotton fields, and then the dairy comes up. It's like, whew, roll up the windows, but you get the whiff of what's going on over there. But I relate a lot to where you're from. But those are absolutely my roots as well. And I did make it to the big city, and I sometimes question that decision. So good for you. Good for you, Omar.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's one of those deals. And whenever I come up to a dairy, I've gotten used to it. So I just say it's the smell of money, right? It's,
I love that.
You gotta learn. You gotta learn to live with it, right?
Listen. I'm taking something away. Anytime I pass by a dairy with my boys, who are city boys, unfortunately, and we pass by all that smell of cow manure, that's the smell of money, son. Take it in. Got that. Got that.
So let's hear your story, Omar. How did you get into this? How did you get to where you are now? What got you into this industry and all the fun stuff in between?
Yeah, start from the start. What do you do? What kind of business do you have?
Little background on Align Digesters and what we do, right? So it's funny you mentioned the dairies, because that's actually the root of our business. That's the heartbeat of our business. And so the story of Align comes back from our parent company, who happens to own the largest single milking facility in California. We have about 10,000 milk cows there, a total of 17,000 animals there. That's actually in California, with a series of other operations in California. So, looking at the dairy industry and the struggle of being starting off small from our parent company, we realized that there was a big need for dairymen to bring another source of revenue to the dairy industry, and that's where we started Align Digesters, which essentially focuses on developing and constructing anaerobic digesters at dairy facilities, where we extract the methane from the cow manure and literally turn crap into money. We extract them.
What? Hold on. You're extracting the methane from cow manure and making that into money.
Yes. So
break that down just a little bit more. How does that become a business?
So from the perspective of we're in California, very green state, and looking into renewable energy and so on and so forth. Um, Dairies are known for its high potency and the greenhouse gas and all that stuff. So we essentially cover existing lagoons or create new lagoons that store the manure. And it's a natural process in there where the biogas, which is generally about 65% methane, will emit out into the atmosphere. By us covering these lagoons, we're actually capturing that biogas. That's 65% methane. And from there, we have two options. We could either burn it into generators to create electricity, or we could upgrade it to natural gas, and it's essentially what people burn in their stoves out in the big city, right? So that's the general overview of what we do, right? And obviously, there's a bigger picture to all this in terms of how we're able to inject it into the pipeline, who off takes it, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of where the core of a line digester comes into play with our formation of strategic partnership with certain entities that kind of govern the natural gas industry and so on and so forth. So, when I came into Align Digesters about almost 5 years now, I used to work for a very large, heavy civil contractor, well-known and reputable throughout the United States. I don't know if I could say their name or not.
Say it.
Yeah, that's on you.
Granite Construction Company. Learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
I just had a bigger vision, right? And it's you start getting to these big corporate companies, and it's difficult to climb up the ladder and so on and so forth, right? You're literally competing with the best of the best in the country, trying to work for these big corporations, and my drive to become something bigger just kind of led me to leave there, take what I knew from there, and start working with the owner of Align Digesters to create what is now Align Digesters, right? So we took a development.
Omar, you just made talking shit sound really smart. Like, I have never heard somebody talk shit in the way that you talked about it. That was like magnificent.
That's why I tell everybody, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, right?
Literally, you are the dude that kicks around. Yeah, that I've never heard about somebody that does what you do. That's fascinating.
And also get so excited about it too, right? And
yeah.
It comes to show me I love what I do, and as long as we have that strive, that drive that keeps you waking up every morning, and I don't know many people that say I want to go keep turning shit into money, right? But I'm more of those, right? That's what gets me out of bed every morning, and I really aspire to get other people to join our team that have that same focus, right? You pretty much turn trash into money and find a way to continue and develop a good revenue source by doing that, right? So
I was going to say, it's got to be one of the most satisfying ways to make money, right? Because you're literally taking like the worst thing on the planet or one of the most disgusting things on the planet, and
no one wants to touch that,
right?
So, I mean, can we stay there for a little while? Let's just like develop that thought, the ideal of turning crap literally into money. What's the root? Like, what's the heartbeat and the pulse of the company? Is it, of course, all of us are in business to make money, right? But is it so that this industry becomes more of a renewable resource? Is it so that the dairy industry is seen less as, one of the bad guys in global warming? Like, what is the pulse of the business?
I think a lot of this comes down to, in life, you get things thrown left and right. The dairy industry is already a hard industry to thrive in. You see a lot of the smaller folks going out of business. They're more prone to bankruptcies and so on and so forth. So from our end, it was a way of how do we keep this industry alive? How do we create an additional revenue source for these dairymen so that they have another opportunity to strive, right? At what they do best. So that's kind of where we came on board. We had the advantage of being a pretty large, dairy operation in California, but just because we're large doesn't mean that, the smaller folks can have an opportunity to continue in the industry. So from our end, it was a line's been formed for close to 8 years or so. And we started Align started focusing on let's figure out all the kinks and quirks at our place and then take that and deliver what we're good at to our other friends in the industry, right? Other dairymen that want to do something similar to what we're doing, right? So a lot of it, there's many reasons. There's mandates currently in stating that, dairymen will have to bring their methane emissions down 40% or whatnot by a certain year. And obviously this is one of the only ways to do that. So it's something where, we saw what was prone to happen down the road. And the sooner we took action to start trying to find a solution, the better it was going to be for us to get that kind of forefront advantage to the industry that we're in, right? Which ties
Omar,
up.
would you say is that what makes your job really hard? What makes your job really hard? What makes what you do really hard? Is it, the mandates that come down, the things that are out of your control, or is it just like operating the business from a day to day? What makes your job really hard?
I think from our end, there's many things that make it hard, right? The first thing is education, right? It's one of those deals. We love the dairymen, but there's an educational background on, how are they going to mandate me to do X, Y, and Z? And in our sake, we're saying, look, they're going to make you do this. So it's either you join us now or you're going to be forced to do it later. You don't have too much control over it. So for us, one of the most difficult things is that communication with the dairymen and getting them to understand that we're trying to help them out. And at the end of the day, the other difficult part is there's a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle, right? It's not only creating the biogas is the easy part, right? Once you have that biogas, how are you going to monetize it to bring the most revenue possible into the equation, right? And there's a lot that goes into that, simple concept there. We all know commodity prices for natural gas are not necessarily the highest, and our productions aren't necessarily. We don't produce enough to make this a feasible business if we were only to get commodity prices for natural
standalone.
Gas. That's where knowing that the government incentive programs, in California, we have something called the LCFS programs, low carbon fuel incentive program, where if we are able to put our natural gas into anything on wheels, they exponentially multiply the value of this gas, right? So how do we get to put this gas that we're creating into the Amazons of the world, the UPSs of the world that are running on natural gas, right? And that's where we took a step back when some of the other developers were going full speed trying to sign up, a lot of dairymen to come and join them. We took a step back and said, how are we going to give these dairymen what they deserve by creating strategic partnerships for people that will be able to really monetize this during the hard times?
I was going to say that was probably going to be my assumption that one of your biggest challenges was margin, right? I mean, the agriculture business in general already operates on such a low margin, right? That you're introducing something that has a cost built into it, and obviously there's an opportunity for return, but ultimately anything that somebody in the ag industry has to bring on that's going to incur a cost at the beginning, it's got to be a scary concept for for a lot of people in this industry that, again, already operate on such low margins.
Yeah, but and Mike, I think that's a lot where contractors relate to that. They're very slim. There can be very slim margins because the cost of materials and rough materials are what they are. And in California, where the three of us can relate, the cost of labor is what it is. It's continually rising. So how do you create the partners and the strategy and the right pipelines to stay profitable and stay in business, like just to stay in business?
And from our sake, right? And you're probably asking, well, you guys sound more like a development company than an actual construction company, but that's where we had to make certain decisions to bring a little bit more profitability to Aligned as a whole, other than only being a developing company of digesters. We decided to, let's not only develop these, find the partnerships, but let's also construct these and build these and be a full, what we call EPC contractor, engineering, procurement, and construction.
Kind of own the whole process from beginning to end, right? Yeah.
So for these facilities, we do the construction of the new lagoons. We do construction of the equipment pads. We do the installation of the upgrade equipment. We do, all the mechanical work in between. If it's not done in-house, we have subcontractors. We act as a general construction manager for this. We're a licensed general engineering class A contractor. So, I mean, it's that's where I brought my knowledge from Granite Construction and said, hey, let's not only be the development company signing up these dairymen and working as a middleman between us and the investor, but let's go in there, give a full turnkey package where we could say, hey, we have the dairyman that's willing to come on board and get one of these projects built. You act as an investor, and we pretty much will hand over a turnkey package that will, run and operate when we.
I imagine it's got to be a little bit easier to sign some of these guys up, right? Knowing that they're going to deal with you from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
I kind of related to like Alexia, right? Like we just had her on last episode, somebody in that solar industry, right? Like solar came along, brand new technology, and there were so many companies out there that decided to just try and sell the solar. Like we'll just go out there and sell the solar, and we'll find some guy with a ladder and a hammer to install all the solar and hope that he does it right. But the ones that have stuck around and the more profitable ones and the ones that are a little bit more trusted in the industry are the ones that own that whole process from beginning to end, right? Same kind of concept. It would have been easy for you guys to come in and just say, look, we have all this technology, this is what we can do. We'll find somebody to kind of construct it for you and make it work. But being able to own that whole process, I'm sure, is a little bit better of a selling point for you.
Is it sustainable, Omar? I mean, how many is this such a niche market that you're held within the parameters and the boundaries of, people in the central part of California, or can you travel out? How sustainable is your growth?
So that's a neat thing about us, right? A lot of this has came through our reputation too, and the connections that we need. But we've gone out to Kansas to consult projects for other developers that are, pretty much saying, hey, we have no clue what we're doing. We know the renewable space, but we don't know the dairy industry. And that's a neat thing about us, right? We're probably the only developer out there that came from the dairy and is now building this. So we know and understand the dairy side of things in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We know, if you have a healthy herd, you're going to probably have a healthy digester. If you have an operator that doesn't know what he's doing on the dairy side of things, then how do you expect to get the collection of manure you need for the digester? So
what's this investment cost a dairyman? Like, how much are they having to invest for these lagoons?
So on our end, we do something a little bit different than the typical developers out there. We actually own, operate, and we'll own, operate, and develop the whole thing at no cost to the dairyman, and they will get a royalty back. That doesn't mean there's not an opportunity for the dairyman to come and say, hey, I want to own half of this. Can I put in X amount?
So they can invest whatever they feel comfortable, but
there's definitely a possibility for them to invest and come in as a partner. It's just let's be frank, right? A dairyman wants to do dairy, and that's what they want to do. They don't want to be worrying, how are we producing the gas? How's that digester doing? And so on and so forth, right? So we've learned that most dairymen have opted to, I don't want to touch it. Just give me a check for sending you crap. Right. And that's ultimately what they're doing, right? So it works out in their favor because it's a zero headache deal on their end, right? We take care of it. We give them a royalty back on the net sales of the gas, which means they don't have to put money into repairs and all of that stuff. They're getting a royalty off the net sales, which really makes them a if they were in a partnership with us, it'd make them a pretty significant stakeholder in the company.
Talk to me about your operations. What's it like managing the development of Islay? Like, what are your people management skills? What are some of the challenges that actually, getting your hands in there and creating, developing, and constructing, something that's this is very niche. Like you've niched all the way down, right? So what is your operations look like? How do you manage your people? How do you find your right people to stay in business with you?
So we could all agree it's getting more difficult and more difficult to find the right people, 100%. Right? So I feel like I've developed a team that's really close to each other now. And we all agree that if we don't have the right person coming in, we don't need him. We'd rather work harder on our end and not bring the wrong person in. So we have become very selective on who we bring in to work as part of our team. Because I'll be honest with you, we have an engineering department, engineering side of the company, but we grab our engineers to come and do construction work every now and then, right?
Really?
Because they're willing to do that. They want to step out of the office, and we can't create better engineers unless they're boots on the ground, seeing what they're doing correct, right? So it's, I tell everybody when they come on board, this is your job description, and then there's another line that's going to state you got to help everybody and whatever
I love that. Yeah.
With operators to literally grab shit every now and then. You're gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's
a really, whole new term. So you're gonna get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Like it's all you're gonna get your hands dirty here.
Well, to your point, I have to imagine if you've built that culture, those guys would rather see it done correctly and be out there helping the guys that they know want to be there than have to manage somebody who maybe doesn't want to be there and isn't putting in 100% of the effort, right? Like,
well, and it's about being a team player, right? It's I feel like in life you got to take a few steps back and be a good person too, right? And you never know when you're going to need that other person to help you out in something, right? We have engineers that work remotely out of Sacramento, and they don't want to take a 3-hour drive to come down here and check a project when they could call somebody and say, hey, can you FaceTime me right now? Let's be efficient. Let's see how we're going to change this, right? So it's a give and take for everything, right? So on that sake, if we don't develop that culture from up top, I can't force somebody to join a culture if I'm not doing it, right? I've got dirty. I've gone out and dug a hole for a bollard. I've done the little things here and there. I don't do it as often as I did before, just because of the obvious reasons that's not
where your value is really at this point, probably.
My value, or what I tell my team, is I need to go and find the next job for us so that we all have something to continue.
That's right.
We all need work, and my job is to go and find those opportunities and to create a better future for all of us, right? So it's it's kind
so the construction and the engineering teams, like those are set, right? And those, they can move around from job to job as you get new jobs. But from dairy to dairy, as you're bringing new ones on, how many people do you need on the ground to run, right? Because it sounds like from the dairyman standpoint, they're just kind of hands off, right? You're just operating for them, but there's got to be people that you need there, right, to operate?
So our three divisions that we have within the company are our engineering division, our construction division, and our operations division. So I keep it as simple as possible. I'm the general manager, and I have three right-hand people, right? One for engineering, one for construction, one for operations. And, those leads for construction, operations, and engineering are kind of my eyes and ears out in the field. And they are, we just had an interview this morning at 7:00 for another operator. And,
And I thought 9 a.m. was early. I was like,
Right.
Omar really be testing my commitment. Omar's testing my commitment at 9 a.m. He said, I interviewed somebody at 7 a.m. Okay.
I left and came back, right? And it's one of those deals. My operations manager said, "Hey, you're doing it at 7," and I said, "Hey, if they want the job, they're going to be there at 7, right?" And it's something as simple as that, right? The guy was there 15 minutes before, and it worked out, and hopefully it'll be a good deal. But that's kind of the general overview of how I run things. And like I said earlier, our operations guys, I have them involved in construction too, because at the end of the day, one of those operators is going to be operating the project we're constructing. So if they know what's buried under the ground, they will know when something goes bad, where the likelihood,
where to look and what to do. Yeah.
Be, right?
So does it just take one person at the dairy once it's construction and everything's running? Just one person there? And are they there full time, or do they kind of hop around?
I have my general concept is to have one construction manager on site that oversees our subcontractors and so on. And then I will leave him with one project engineer to help him out for those projects. Depending on the magnitude of the project, sometimes the project manager for construction will have 1 or 2 jobs assigned to them. But it's typically one full force project and then another one that they're closing out. And getting final permits and final inspections.
No, so I'm more talking about the operations side. Like once everything's done, do you guys keep somebody on site 24/7, or not necessarily 24, but every day of the week, or are they kind of moving around? Or
what's the management requirement?
Yeah,
we have one operator assigned to each project. Once it's constructed, and it doesn't mean that they're 100% on that project, right? We might pull them on to help another operator at another project, depending on the task we have going on. So even on that, I could send any of my operators to any of the facilities, and they should know how to operate that facility. Mm-hmm. They have assignments to specific digester projects, and that's more for accountability, right? If our productions are low, I need to be able to go back to somebody and say, "Hey, this is your project. What's going on here," so on and so forth. But that's more for the accountability side of things. But at the end of the day, every operator should know how to operate each one of the facilities. And that's part of what we've created by creating a team, right?
Yeah, Omar, I'm hearing, if I'm pulling things out, I'm really hearing that the culture you've created is first lead by example, right? If you can't do it and if your team doesn't see you doing it, they're not going to be as invested. Like that is one of your ethos. And I feel like what I'm also hearing is there's this culture in your business that is very hands-on and everyone is very plugged into each other. Like not very, but at least the right absolutely knows what the left hand is doing. Like they're intertwined in that. And that is a critical part of how successful your business is if I'm pulling out things for in terms of business, things that we can all learn from.
Yes. And that's one of the culture I've decided to enhance on the team, right? And it's sometimes it starts with I sent a text at 8 last night to the team saying it's going to be hot tomorrow, stay hydrated. Something as simple as that, right? And then you have the team texting each other saying, "Hey, make sure you bring waters," or "Hey, I have extra waters in my truck if you want some," or right? It starts with the simple things that definitely send a big message, right?
A big message. It's that care. What makes you excited about what you do? When we first started talking, I feel like what I was hearing from a business standpoint and why you offer this service to the dairy industry, the dairymen, is because you care. It sounded like there was this care. Like, I want them to survive. And, they're really getting mandated and they're getting the short end of the stick on a service that they provide that's necessary for the world, for the country. Like, lots of people eat meat, lots of people drink milk. We kind of need it. But overall, I'm hearing that we were just trying to find ways for dairymen to stay in business because it's a hard business to be in. But I'd like for you to share what makes you excited about what you're doing.
I think I'm aside from the dairies, helping out the dairies, I like people. I'm a firm believer that I cannot grow if I'm not able to teach what I know. And what really makes me excited is I've learned how to create and develop this business. And if I can't pass it on to my team for them to grow as people and individuals, then I'm not doing my job. So I guess to answer that question, what really gets me excited is passing on what I've learned to see someone else, become successful. And it's one of those, I'm hopeful and faithful that they will stay within aligned and grow along with our company. But if they don't, I'll be happy for their success, right? It's one of those deals, the moment that I begin to not teach them something that I know because I don't want them to grow, lets them know, I'm bringing too much negativism into the equation, and I don't feel like that's going to take me anywhere or the company anywhere, right? If I teach them something well and they move on, I have a great connection that I could go to, and hopefully someday they'll say, hey, you know what? That person taught me this and that. Because I'll tell you this much. I always talk about the people that taught me a lot at Granite, right? Yeah. I would say, hey, this person, this project manager shows me what I know. And I'm grateful for that, right? If I'm ever able to help them, I'm going to help them, right? And it's one of those deals where that's what really gets me.
Well, there's something to be said about legacy, right? I mean, that you're creating, even if those people do move on, like you said, like you're kind of creating a legacy in the industry, right? And only helping the industry. If you retain everybody, then I mean, in theory, there's other people out there maybe not doing it the same way or the right way or the best way, and that doesn't help the industry, right? So I mean, the more you can spread that knowledge and those people kind of move along in the industry, you're only helping and creating that legacy for yourself, for sure.
Yeah, Mike, and I'm also here. So, Omar, your leadership style is to lead by example and to be a teacher. But the industry that you're in isn't just like construction, it's in renewable energy, right? And that's not going anywhere. So the fact that you're a leader that wants to teach and hand down and continue to grow is so important, not just for your company, but for your community, for the state, for the world, because like solar, this is one of those things that it has to happen. Yeah. Right? For the health of our world. And so I think you should underscore that I am a teacher, and it's in your best interest, Omar, to be that, because like literally I need you to be a teacher so that my kids have a world to live in. That's incredible.
And I think I've seen so many positive things come out of this, right? It's one of those things where we've gotten contracts before, not because we know it, but because people like working with us. They know we're going to find the solution, right? We've had people ask us, hey, can you take care of our solar and manage the construction or whatever the case is? And we say, hey, well, we haven't done it, but we're willing to learn with you and
figure it out. Yeah.
We'll not on this project, but at least people know that they could call us and we're going to answer the phone, right? And that's what a lot of it comes down to, right? We don't take more than what we can handle, and I kind of see ourselves as I like to call ourselves more of like a custom home build type of person, right? We're not out there doing 40 projects at once. We're doing what my team can handle. We're kind of like a well-oiled machine that's doing things efficiently, and I do want to grow, but if it's not the right person, then it's a little difficult to grow with the wrong people, right? Because reputation goes a long way, and all it takes is one bad apple to sometimes run the rest. So it's
Well, from that growth standpoint too, like, are there other? I mean, obviously California's got to be, and I don't know this industry, right? But I have to imagine California's got to be one of the most strict and the most, I guess, just heavily, mandated as far as what you can and have to do. And you said you did a job out in Kansas, but are there things coming down the line for other states, or are those people in other states doing it just because they know that it's right, or what's the thought process behind growth outside of California for some of those doing it?
So in the hype of this industry a few years back, and to date, California is still accepting gas from other states to monetize it in California. So all you have to claim is, I did a project in Kansas or Washington, and I put it into a pipeline, and theoretically a molecule from that state could make it to California, and we use it in California.
Yeah,
they'll be monetized for that, right? So that's where a lot of these developments in other states came about. The nice thing is there's other states bringing on their own programs similar to California, which is definitely opening up the market, right? Oregon, has one. There's other states that are now bringing their own, LCFS type program into the equation, which will alleviate some of the issue we've been having here. Because one of our other hurdles is getting accredited to be a part of those programs is taking forever now, because there's too many people coming on board, not enough staff to review and all that from the state. Mm-hmm. So, we have seen a delay there. And that all goes back to our strategic partnerships and who we've decided to do business with on the gas monetization side of things. We opted to do business with people that have a lot of power in the natural gas industry, to where if it's an issue to monetize stuff in California, we're currently working on deals to export our gas to Europe, right? And it's we have that infrastructure based off of our partnerships where we're able to do that. Right? But
do you guys on the trucking side too, or do you guys pay for it?
We do milk calling, and because
that's a whole nother industry, right? Like not only you in that digesting point piece of it, but construction and then operations, and also, I mean, technically trucking too, right? I mean, that's a whole nother industry.
The trucking side of things, most of our work is actually helping truckers in the industry who are saying, hey, we can't afford this diesel price or whatnot. And we say, hey, we'll do a conversion into natural gas. We'll help you acquire the trucks and procure the trucks and build a fueling station for you to have in-house and so on, so that you could use some of this renewable gas, especially if you're, working locally, to where you could come back to home base to start and refuel every day, right? And that's really a good opportunity for them to save money on fueling costs, right? And while also helping us by creating more demand for the gas that we're producing. Right? So it's
so many pieces.
It's a little bit like Tetris.
Yeah.
I'm having it's like putting it all together. It's a big puzzle.
Yeah. It is.
Omar, bringing us back into the construction side of what you do. Tell me what you feel is the biggest challenge in the construction industry right now. And I know that you're doing construction in an entirely different way, but I appreciated how you say I'm a custom builder, right? I'm doing something that's very custom for my client. What would you say in your experience, what you're experiencing up there is the biggest challenge in construction right now?
Material costs, right? The fluctuation there. A lot of our contracts come with guaranteed maximum not to exceed, and our ethics aligned are, we're talking about $10 million projects. So our ethics at Aligned is, if we tell you something, and we're doing business old school by shaking hands on a lot of this stuff. Yes, there's a huge contract attached to this, but at the end of the day, if we tell you we're not going over, right? Whether we're, value engineering, which is a great thing on our end because we have our engineering people on staff, right? So it's really, the reason we do not to exceed contracts is because it really pushes the best out of us to value engineer, figure out how we can do this. And the next go around, the investors or our business partners will come in and say, hey, you built the other one for 10, prices are going up, and now you're telling me you're going to build this one for 9.5. Yeah, we found a way to build it better, stronger, more reliable, at a cheaper cost, right? Because the previous project pushed us to do that, right?
That's cool.
So it's
Smart.
material
All right,
costs.
well, then can you give us some examples? A not to exceed contract is really hard in today's climate because it's not just the cost of materials, it's labor shortages, it's supply chain, it's the inflation, it's all gas prices, all of that really can interrupt a not to exceed contract. But if material costs, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge in the construction industry, what are you doing with the business to pivot so that if it's at $9.5 million contract, your business is not exceeding $9.5 million with a high cost of materials? What are you doing?
I think the biggest thing that comes with this is relationships, and it might sound weird, right? If price of material goes up, it goes up, but we've learned to bond so well with material suppliers to where we've been able to tell them, hey, this is what's going on, this is where we're at. They see the potential in our business, and they say, hey, you know what? We'll cut down our margins here because we know how you're operating, we know the way that you work, and you're good for your word. And we explain the value engineering deal, and we tell them, hey, we have this other project lined up, which we do, and it might be 2-3 months, but we make it up on the next one type of deal because that's just the relationship we've built with a lot of these folks, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's our kind of our best ammunition when it comes to dealing with these material cost increases. And reality is, even with our investors, we do have fixed price contracts, but there's a limit where if you see somebody's doing everything right, the moment that I go in and ask for a favor, which is not very often, it's more likely that favor is going to be returned, right?
Yeah.
If I tell them, hey, you know what? We're down to our knees, I'm really at my last dollar, and we have a fixed price contract. We screwed up here, but look at where we're at, right? We went through COVID, we had a $30 million portfolio project of a couple projects right through COVID, and we were able to get through that, build all 3 projects. We're just commissioning the last project now from that portfolio. And, it's being able to go right through COVID without asking for any increases in price means a lot to the investor, right?
Yeah.
Even they can ask them, hey, how were you able to do this? Well,
yeah,
we're open book. This is how we were able to do it, right? And I know at the moment that we really start bleeding, I could go back and say, hey, you know what? I've never asked for anything before. This is where we're at. And how can we try to work something out, right?
Well, I think that's a very important concept too, right? Because I go back to the construction side just with contractors and what I deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? And I do the insurance side of it, right? And Maricela, she can vouch for this, but they push me as hard as I can to, get them the cheapest price they possibly can. And there's other brokers that they're working with that are doing the same thing. And then they turn around to their suppliers and they do the same thing, right? Pushing to get them the cheapest materials they possibly can and bounce around from supplier to supplier, whoever can get them the cheapest price. But a lot of that comes from because that's how they're treated in most cases, right? Like in most cases, they're having to bid jobs multiple times, against multiple other contractors to get the cheapest and best price. But it sounds like you guys have a different, philosophy or way of doing that where you've got, those relationships built and they know that you're going to them every single time, no matter what, because of that relationship. And that affords you the ability to ask for those favors every once in a while, right? If they had to compete for your business on every single job and maybe didn't get them all, they only got 25% of them because somebody else low bid them on somebody else to provide stuff for you. They're probably not turning around and giving you that favor when you absolutely need it.
Yeah, I think what's really impressive about what you shared, like you're saying, the biggest challenge in construction right now is material costs. And I would have thought you would have pulled out we cut our labor force so it could compensate for some of the margin. You went to, it's my relationships. And I think that's really impressive. It's not, cutting down on my quality. It's not cutting down on the types of materials we get. It's the relationships that I have. And I think that's something that any one of us in the industry can pull from and learn from. It's the relationships you have with people. Have you always been a people person? Because a lot of what you're saying, a lot of your style is very people oriented. It's my relationships. It's how I want to help. It's my leading by example. It's me being being a teacher. Have you always been a people person, or is just this your ethos in your business leadership?
I feel like I've always been a people's person, right? It's not the best person ever, but I try to communicate well, and I try to be as transparent as I can, right? And it's similar to the material deal, subcontractors too, right? You talk to a subcontractor, you tell me this is where we're at, and typically they're willing to work with you, right? Especially us, we deal with the same contractors over and over.
Right.
Right? We trust them until the moment we don't, right? And it's one of the things where I give all my face.
Don't give me a reason to not trust you.
Yep. Until they give us a reason not to trust them, which we've had in the past, right? And you just have to overcome that hurdle and say, hey, you know what? You're not doing business the way that we want to do business, and we're going to have to part our own ways and, not leave things with, I don't want to leave a sour taste in your mouth. We're just, we don't see eye to eye on what we're trying to provide to our clients, right? You're in it for the profit and go and leave when, the way I look at things is if a subcontractor is not willing to do what I'm willing to do for my client, if subcontractors are not willing to do it for us, they're not part of the right team, right? If I call them because they didn't install something correctly and they come back and gripe about it, like, oh, well, you should have told us when we were installing it, then things happen. I'm not telling you, hey, you screwed it up and, you're going to have to pay me back or whatever. I'm telling you, there's an issue. Let's go fix it. And, the client will be happy on their end. I'll be happy. You'll be happy because you get the next job, right? The moment they start trying to charge to go back out there and start questioning their warranties and start questioning their written contracts after we've had a verbal discussion of what was needed. Those are the things that are really giving me red flags on it. Well,
on a subcontractor. I think subcontractors are absolutely an extension of who you are. While they're not employees, so to speak, and they don't, subscribe to the one company methodology, subcontractors have to be an extension, an extended arm and represent you in some way, shape, or form. Because at the end of the day, you're the one holding the purse, right? And the client's calling you. So whether you're a contractor whose ethos is more about being extremely time efficient or being very profitable, whatever it is, it's finding those subcontractors and those partners that have the same ethos. And for you, you're a people person, you're a helper. You lead by those examples. So I can see why it's so important to partner with contractors who have at least that same level of integrity.
And the other thing with me is I hate conflict, right? I don't like, I don't wake up in the morning to go to work and be dealing with problems, right? That's a big thing for me. I just had a conversation this morning in that interview, right, where problems are going to happen. It's how fast you think of a solution that will divert you away from thinking about the problem, right? The more you focus on the problem, the bigger you make it. So it's, there's a problem. Let's attack it. Find the solution. Let's move on, right? Learn from it. Don't make the same mistake. And if you do, I do believe in second chances. Just don't continuously be making that same mistake, right? But it's it's one of those deals, right? I'm not here to cause problems. I'm here to enjoy what I do, and a lot of that depends on who you're working with and who you choose to work with. So,
I'd like to go into some fire tech.
I was going to say, you do you,
yeah. So we're going to get into the part of our conversations where I'm just going to, again, I think what's really a little rapid fire questions, some things that you do that serve you just so that you can serve others better. One of the big things that I want to help myself and anyone listening to this podcast is they come away with that little tidbit like, oh, I'm going to try that. Or I hadn't thought about that. Or I like, that one thing that he's doing and I'm going to try it, because those are the podcasts for me that I just continue to listen to over and over again. So we're going to get on a little speed fire questions. Is that the right way to say it, Mike? The speed?
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire,
So,
sponsored by, we need a sponsor.
We're going to get a sponsor. We're going to get a sponsor. Any sponsors listening to this podcast, we are listening and interested. All right. So just give me what you got here. This is, again, more personal than it is business. But what is the one resource in your business, Omar, that you can't do your business without? It can't be a person and it can't be an internet. We all use it. What's one resource that as a business person you use and man, I can't do my business without that?
Oh, geez. I mean, that's a tough one. These rapid fires are going to be tough. I don't know how fast I can respond. Really making me think here. I mean, I'd have to, can't be people. I think my team's my best resource, but I can't choose my team. I mean,
is it like, think about like, I can't do it without my Microsoft Office.
Yeah, I was going to say a piece of software or a piece of
Office.
equipment
Is it QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop? Is it like, what's a resource? Is
I think for us, it's actually Excel. Excel is, and I'll tell you why. We found better resources to do things now, but I started this company off of Excel. Our timesheets were on Excel. Everything was on Excel. And that really helped me structure the company. And, I pass on all these Excel spreadsheets to our team now, and they're like, oh, what's this? What's that? Right. And I'm like, hey, this is the root of where all this stuff came from, right? You dissect this, you will know and understand how.
What's crazy is people don't understand how powerful Excel is, right? Like what it can do. And I'm kind of an Excel nerd, so I'm with you there. I love that kind of stuff. But like being able to, just kind of click buttons and make things work inside that and make it think on its own is pretty intense. And it's pretty fun when you're able to do something that somebody else isn't. You can show them how to be more efficient with that. It's, I don't know. I love it.
And Excel is an endless like resource. Like it's like the in and out hidden like menu. It's like there's all these things you didn't really know was there until you start using it. You're like, oh my God, these fries are amazing with the sauce on top of it. All right. So Excel.
Next. Microsoft Excel.
Microsoft Excel. If somebody out there is not using Microsoft Excel, Mike is going to start getting private lessons on Microsoft.
Well, and the great part about it is like people don't understand. You can just Google like Excel, how do I yada yada yada, and like a billion things will pop up, and it's crazy how much you can get done and how efficient.
That's right. Yeah, I've done that several times.
It's like I tell my guys, right? If you ever have any questions, I will pay for YouTube University. You guys go and check out whatever you'll need there, right?
Yeah,
that's probably my second resource, right? If you have questions on Excel or anything else, it's all on YouTube, right?
It's all on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's all on YouTube. Pivot table, YouTube. Omar, is there a book or a podcast, the last book or podcast that you read that you love, that you grew from, that you learned from? Book or podcast? Name of it.
Oh man, I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
Me too. Same.
And podcasts, and there's a lot of controversy on this stuff and what it is, but I look at it more on the growth side of things. The controversial deal is, I don't know if you guys have heard of Grant Cardone, big real estate guy, and kind of I take more of the culture that he brings into, use some common sense to a lot of this stuff, and it's I use a lot of what I do on my daily based off of what he says, right? Whether people agree with him or not, but it's just do the right thing. And the moment you get in a bind, you have that to your advantage, right? I've done the right thing this whole time. You've been the one that's been screwing me over or, not treating me right. So at least you knew what you could do on your end type of deal, right? And that's where a lot of the things that I do on my daily basis just come from stuff I've heard from him in the past.
Grant Cardone. One of the things I listened to his podcast years ago, and in business you question yourself, like, am I doing the right thing sometimes? Like, should I actually be here? And I heard him share one time, you got to burn all the ships. You got to burn all the ships. There is no going back. Like, commit. The ships are not there anymore. Make yourself a home and make yourself a village. Like Grant Cardone, I'm with that. I'm with that. Controversial or not. All right. Best advice someone's given you that you still draw from. Best advice you've heard.
The best advice. So college roommate in high school or in college, he'd complain about getting up in the morning, and he said, "What's the hardest thing about getting up?" And I don't know, getting up. We said, "Yeah, exactly. Well, when you get up, you start your day, right? So don't focus on the problems. The hardest thing about getting up, just get up, right? So same thing with problem. The hardest thing about a problem is finding the solution. Start working on a solution, you'll get it over with, right? So I think that's the best thing for me. If I feel proud of myself when I'm able to live a full day just taking action, right? If you worry about things too much in your head, you just spent 20 minutes fiddling around, right? Same thing with a big task. Well, I have to do this. Before you realize it, it took you 15 minutes and you dreaded it for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Just making decisions on simple stuff, right? I was having a conversation with the guys the other day about, we were trying to figure out, okay, do we order this? Do we order that? And it was like a $20 item. I said, guys, we've been at this for 15 minutes, 3 guys, your salary, just pick one, just buy one, right? And it'll be fine. If it's not the right, we learned from it, but it's, that leads to
efficiency. But that much like be a part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Not part of the problem. Yeah. The hardest thing about waking up isn't waking up. It's taking action. It's putting your feet on the ground. It's getting out of bed.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about that because this morning it was not trying to get out of bed.
Not easy. Yep.
Not easy. All right. Last question. You're a business person. You're responsible for a lot. So I really think it's important that we have, something that we pour into ourselves so that we can pour into others. Is there a habit that you have, Omar, that's just for you? Something that you do to fill you up, something that you do to nurture you so that you can continue to nurture the others in your life? What's the habit that you have for you?
I try to develop all these little habits, but I've learned that the best thing or approach that I've always done is learn to know yourself. And it's okay to take a step back sometimes, because sometimes you're too focused on work and start forgetting things, like taking care of family and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, there's things that keep your heartbeat going. And for me, it's family. So if you're having a rough day at work, look at your roots and what you're doing things for, right? So it's kind of realign yourself.
Taking that moment to reflect.
Align yourself with what gets you there, and just know that it's okay to step back. Because more times than not, if there's a big problem that's really, pulling you down, if you let it go for a little bit, they tend to solve themselves at the time, right? Which is kind of contrary from what I said, find the solution earlier. But you got to know when to say, hey, you know what, this is pulling me down too much. I need to take a step back, enjoy what I really love and what, pushes me to wake up every morning and so on, which is my family. And then that generally helps fix everything else.
Yeah. I'm hearing you've built the habit of learning when to step back and think about who instead of what. Who am I doing this for instead of what is the problem? It's a good one. It's a good one.
Well, it goes back to that. It goes back to his philosophy of being a people person, right? I mean, it's focusing on the people and not necessarily the people inside your business, but the people, that, like you said, that keep you moving every day. Inside that thing. Love that. Yeah.
Very cool, Omar. Very cool.
So before we let you go, I want to know what's the future look like for you guys? Where are you headed? What is the vision for the next 3 to 5 years? Are we taking over the entire dairy industry? What are we doing here?
I think on our end, we're ready to grow. We're ready to explode. I think we were focusing on our structure. We were focusing on creating the relationships and creating a good reputation. And I think we've managed to get all that lined up. And I think the next step for us is that that boom, right? We're
Yeah.
ready to not only take things to other states but to other countries, right? And we've managed to build the relationships both in other states and other countries, and we have very solid investors that are willing to do it all, right? So it's that's kind of where we're at. So,
and I love that you guys have had the patience and the diligence to make sure that, like you said, you develop those relationships, you develop the structure, you develop the processes and the people. Because most people see an opportunity like you have right now, like back to Marisol's point, like this is going to be needed everywhere. If it's not mandated now, it will be soon. And even if it's not mandated, everybody needs to be doing it in this industry, right? But you've found a way to do it, and most people would have just gone a million miles an hour and tried to take over the entire world immediately, right? But it sounds like you guys have been diligent and patient enough to make sure that you have everything set up correctly, all the right people and in the right positions. That when you do grow, it's going to be successful, hopefully.
Yeah.
Love
Good
that.
stuff,
Cool.
Omar. Good stuff. Well, listen, thank you for talking to us about shit in a way that I've never heard, and I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast has never heard. With the integrity that you have for your business and for the specific industry you're serving, I'm sure there's much more success on your horizon.
Thank you.
Give people shout outs. How do they find you? Where do they get a hold of you? How do they find out what you guys are doing and learn?
So our main source is probably our website, aligneddigesters.com. You could find us there. We're not huge on social media, but there will be something coming soon, right? I understand that is the new.
You mean people don't want to watch shit being shoveled and turned into gas all day on social media? That's not fun.
You could use some give.
I was gonna say, people watch weirder stuff, man.
People watch weirder stuff.
It'll come soon, right? It's I think it's about the bigger picture, and when they see those generators running, and that's what'll catch their eye. And then when they realize what's generating those the power off those generators, and it's there's some room there for us to expand our market and our horizons.
For sure.
So it'll come at something, our YouTube channel or something along those lines. But
you should absolutely do that, Omar. And listen, the next time I drive up to my mom's and I drive by the next, the 4 dairies to get to her house, I mean, that's not the smell of manure, that's the smell of money.
Smell of money. Love
Smell
that.
of money.
Omar, it's been awesome, man. We appreciate it.
So.
Yeah.
All right,
well, thanks
Omar.
so much, man. We look forward to your success and following you guys in the future. And I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Omar.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.